Nissan Skyline GT-R R32. In Japan's Touring Car Championship, the R32 entered 29 races and won all 29 of them. Not most of them, every single one. The R32 wasn't just faster than its competition, it was faster in a way that the competition had no real answer to. It had a twin-turbo inline-six, producing around 280 horsepower, a sophisticated all-wheel drive system called Atessa ETS that could shift torque between axles in milliseconds, and a four-wheel steering setup that made it rotate through corners like nothing else on the grid. Other teams were running rear-wheel drive V8s that had been competitive for years and suddenly found themselves irrelevant. Nissan then took the R32 to Australia, where it won the Bathurst 1000 twice, even after officials added 140 kilograms of ballast to the car specifically to slow it down. The ballast didn't work. So the Australian governing body sat down and banned turbocharging and four-wheel drive outright. Not because those technologies were dangerous, but because one specific Nissan was using them better than anyone else could respond to. The rule change effectively ended the R32's racing career, and one car's dominance accidentally shaped an entire national motorsport category. Chevrolet Corvette C4. To understand why the C4 got banned, you need to understand what SCCA showroom stock racing was supposed to be. The entire premise of the class was that manufacturers would bring essentially standard production cars, nothing heavily modified, nothing purpose-built, just a car you could walk into a dealership and buy. Porsche had been doing well in that environment with the 944 Turbo, a genuinely fast and capable car by any measure. Then Chevrolet entered the C4 Corvette. The C4 had a 5.7-liter V8 with significantly more torque than anything else in the class, and a power-to-weight advantage that the 944 Turbo simply couldn't match over a full race distance. From 1985 to 1987, the C4 won 29 consecutive races without a single defeat. Teams running Porsches, BMWs, and other European machinery were finishing behind it every single weekend with no realistic way to close the gap within the existing rules. Porsche and several other manufacturers eventually told the SCCA directly that if the Corvette wasn't removed from the class, they would withdraw from the series entirely, taking their sponsorship, their teams, and their audience with them. The SCCA, deciding that keeping the European manufacturers in the series mattered more than letting the fastest car compete, banned the Corvette outright ahead of the 1988 season. BMW M3 GTR. By 2001, the Porsche 911 GT3 had become almost impossible to beat in the American Le Mans Series GT class, and BMW had decided they wanted to change that. Their solution was the M3 GTR, an E46 M3 fitted with a race-developed 4.0-liter V8 engine instead of the standard inline-six, producing around 450 horsepower. The car was significantly faster than the 911s and began winning immediately. The regulations required a minimum of 10 road-legal versions of any competing car to exist, so BMW built exactly 10 street-going M3 GTRs, priced at around 250k euros each to satisfy the homologation requirements. Unsurprisingly, Porsche complained, arguing that making only 10 cars was just a way to cheat the system. The series organizers responded by changing the homologation minimum from 10 road cars to 100 identical examples plus 1,000 matching engines. BMW looked at the commercial reality of building 100 hand-assembled racing specification V8 road cars and decided it made no financial sense. The project was withdrawn ahead of the 2003 season. Porsche went back to winning. The 10 road-going M3 GTRs that BMW built to satisfy the original rules are now among the rarest and most valuable BMWs ever produced, which is perhaps the only genuinely good outcome from the entire episode. Toyota Celica GT-Four. The Celica GT-Four won 30 WRC rally stages and 4 drivers' championships over its career, making it one of the most successful rally cars of the 1990s. What made it so competitive was a combination of a powerful turbocharged engine, sophisticated all-wheel drive, and a chassis that handled the rough, unpredictable surfaces of rally stages better than most of its rivals. All of that was legitimate. Then, in 1995, during a routine technical inspection, FIA scrutineers discovered something that wasn't. Toyota had engineered a turbo air restrictor with a concealed spring mechanism built into it. At rest, during inspection with the car sitting still, the restrictor appeared to be exactly the legal size. Under hard acceleration on a rally stage, the spring mechanism opened the restrictor and allowed significantly more air into the engine than the rules permitted, producing an estimated 50 or more extra horsepower without any visible trace of the modification during checks. The FIA handed Toyota a ban from the following season, stripped every championship point the team had scored in 1995, and excluded the team entirely from the 1996 WRC season. Dodge Charger Daytona. NASCAR had a rule that any car competing in the series needed a road-going production version available for public sale, a requirement designed to keep the racing connected to actual consumer vehicles. Dodge treated this rule as an engineering challenge. The standard 1968 Charger had been a disaster at high speed, its flat front end and tucked-in rear window making it about as aerodynamic as a brick once it got above 160 miles per hour. So for 1969, Dodge built the Daytona, adding a pointed nose cone extending nearly half a meter beyond the standard bumper and a rear wing standing over a meter tall, purely to fix that one problem. It worked far better than anyone expected, and the Daytona went on to win 6 races across 1969 and 1970. Buddy Baker became the first driver in history to break 200 miles per hour on a closed circuit in a Dodge Charger Daytona, and by the start of the 1970 Daytona 500, 23 of the 40 cars on the grid were either Daytonas or their Plymouth sibling, the Superbird. NASCAR's response for 1971 was to limit aerodynamic cars to a 305 cubic inch engine, while standard cars could still run up to 440 cubic inches, cutting the available power so severely it ended the car's competitive life overnight. The rule didn't mention the Daytona by name. It didn't need to. Audi A4 Quattro. The premise behind super touring car racing in the 1990s was relatively straightforward. 2-liter normally aspirated engines, limited aerodynamics, and production-based bodywork. A formula designed to keep costs manageable and competition close. Most teams interpreted those rules and built competitive front or rear-wheel drive cars. Audi brought a Quattro all-wheel drive system and immediately changed the conversation. In 1996, the A4 won 7 touring car championships across 3 continents, taking titles in Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, Australia, and South Africa in the same calendar year with essentially the same car. The all-wheel drive gave the A4 a traction advantage out of slow corners that front-wheel drive rivals simply couldn't match, particularly in wet conditions, and Audi's drivers were skilled enough to exploit it consistently. The BTCC added 95 kilograms of ballast to the car for 1997 to balance the performance, then added more ballast through the season as Audi kept winning anyway. Eventually, the Super Touring regulations were rewritten to ban 4-wheel drive entirely for 1998, eliminating the single technical advantage that had made the A4 dominant. Mosler Consulier GTP. Warren Mosler was a hedge fund manager who in 1985 decided to build a sports car, which is not something hedge fund managers typically do. The Consulier GTP had a carbon fiber and Kevlar body with no structural metal anywhere in it, making it the first production car ever built that way, and it was powered by a turbocharged 4-cylinder borrowed from Chrysler minivans producing around 175 horsepower. That number sounds unremarkable until you consider the car weighed just over 2,100 pounds. When it entered IMSA supercar racing at Lime Rock in 1991, it won, beating a factory Porsche 911 Turbo, a Callaway twin-turbo Corvette, and a factory ZR1 Corvette in the process. IMSA added a 300-pound weight penalty immediately and banned it entirely the same year. Mosler then renamed the car the Intruder, fitted it with a Corvette V8, and entered it in the Nelson Ledges 24-hour race. It won 2 years in a row and was banned from that too. He then entered it in Car and Driver's One Lap of America competition. It won. It was banned from that as well. The Consulier GTP was banned from 3 separate competitions across its lifetime.